Hi, welcome to Mr. Dyer's Musings. I'm Mr. Dyer. Thank you for joining me today as, well, we're going to do something on the fire. We're going to take a look at this. Stay with me. As always, I'd like to thank my wife, my family for their unconditional support. I'd like to thank you guys, my subscribers, my viewers. I really appreciate it. We're up to 450 subscribers. We're almost halfway to 1,000. And I can't tell you how much I sincerely appreciate your guys' support. I really do. Those of you who have been sharing my channel, been liking my videos and making comments, it really does mean a lot to me. And I really appreciate you guys joining me along for the ride. And I hope along the way, you guys have learned something interesting and maybe useful. So today, we're going to take a look at the chestnut tree. Okay. Now I have a neighbor and he has a chestnut, and they're not terribly common here in Ohio. Now they used to be extremely common until the late 1800s and the early 1900s. You had the chestnut blight. Went through and it decimated the American chestnut population. Here in Ohio, we have a ton of barns and buildings that are old that were built with American chestnut. And it's a testament to how common they really were back in the day. Now I know those of you who may be woodworkers or who may be naturalists or who just have an interest in trees, you know that the American chestnut might be making somewhat of a comeback. Out east, there are a few small groves of American chestnuts that seem to have survived somehow. So hopefully someday my great-grandchildren will be able to see American chestnut trees in their own neighborhoods once again. Now this is a chestnut. Now they're easily identified this time of the year because of these balls, these porcupines. Now when they're green, they're somewhat comfortable to touch. When they get dry though, it hurts. It hurts really bad. These little barbs will get you faster than you can blink an eye. Okay. So the American chestnut, you can roast Chinese chestnuts just as well as the American chestnut. You know, the old Christmas song, chestnuts roasting on open fire, yada, yada, yada. In the Victorian period, during the American Civil War, after the American Civil War, you know, chestnuts was a fall to Christmas delight. But there's this very special way that you have to cook these. Now, those of you who are unfamiliar may have just gotten them in bags, roasted on from street vendors and things like that. There is somewhat of an art to it. Now you want to get these things as soon as they open up like so. You don't want to crack open the green ones. You want to make sure that they're good and ripe. So when they open like this, that is ideal. That is ideal. Now, the chestnut trees are identified not only by the balls, the seed casings, but they're also identified by the really long leaves, like so. Now, Chinese chestnuts, they seem to have teeth on them. This one is glossy as well. Chinese chestnuts have a glossy feel to it. They're not, what do you say, matte finish or eggshell. They're very glossy. So this is some type of variety of Chinese chestnut. On this particular leaf, you can kind of see the teeth. They're kind of chewed up from insects and they're a little dry, so they're hard to make out. On this young leaf, you can kind of see more of the teeth. And I'll put a picture next to this video so you can see what I'm talking about. It'll be a little bit more clear. All right, so if you find a chestnut, this is the time of the year to get it. You normally do this with gloves, but if you're out bushcrafting, if you're out camping at a campsite or something like that, and you don't have gloves, just be very, very careful. And if you take a couple of these leaves, you layer them up, they can kind of help you to hold them be careful, they will go through. Like so. You take a knife or stick, and you just kind of pop it out. Just like so. There's one. I know there's another one over here. There we go. I'm going to hold it by the stem. Get in there. Oh no! Went into the fire. No! No! See if I can save it. Ah! Whew! We're lucky. Okay. So we have our two nuts. These two aren't ripe yet, so I can't use these. Now once you have your nuts, they look a lot like my state tree, the Buckeye tree. As you can see, they have kind of like a Buckeye eye, and they're a brown nut. Now to roast these, what you want to do is you want to cut an X, because as you heat them up, they're going to open up like so, and you'll be able to pop out the meat. Now, before today, I never had chestnuts, but I was really excited. I tried it out. If you're out and you're surviving, you know, these things will do you. But a little bit of salt, maybe some butter, maybe some rosemary will go a long way, but some salt really brings it all together. Otherwise, they taste fairly plain. Now, I do have my Scout mess kit here. I'm going to use. Take that out. Now, I did another video of using mess kits, whether it was the 1910 military mess kit or the Boy Scout mess kit. It doesn't matter. Using it kind of like a Dutch oven. Well, for our purposes today, I'm not going to use the frying pan and the plate as a Dutch oven. I'm just going to use this pot because it has a nice lid. It's good and tight. It's hollowed on the top, so I can even put some coals on top, heat from top and bottom. And I got my fire done early because you want to do it with coals. And it's going to take about a half hour for these things to roast really well. Okay, so I'm going to flip my plate upside down so I have a solid surface for the nut. I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to score an X. Now this one's pretty rounded, but most chestnuts are actually pretty flat on one side. So when you're working with it, it's pretty easy to do. This one, like I said, it was more well rounded. This one is going to be fine. Again, just score an X, like so. You put your nuts with the X facing up if you can. Put your lid on. Now steaming these things actually work pretty well. It's a pretty surefire way. So if you put a little bit of water on them before putting them into the fire, that works out really, really well. Okay, so I'm going to get out some of these coals. Take out some of these sticks that aren't burning yet. I think I actually have enough to do this. I'm going to take my mess kit, and it has a nice little locking feature. Keep the tab up, that'll be pretty useful. I'm going to stick that right there. And the coals. And I'm going to put those right on top. Alright, so like I said, it's going to take about a half hour for that. While that's doing that thing, it's getting kind of like a 2-for-1 video today. I don't know if I'm going to make a video next week because, well, I'm camping out with my brothers. We're actually kind of having like a scout troop reunion in a way this weekend. And it's been a long time since we got together and did a camp out. So I'm really excited about that. So I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to make another video. So I want to make sure that you guys have at least something to work with as well, in case I don't get it put together. I need to make a correction, not so much a correction, more of a deeper explanation from last week's video when I discussed the sharpening stone. Okay, someone asked me, well, how much pressure do you use? And that was an excellent question, and one that I just didn't think of because I just do it naturally. When, especially doing straight razors, the finer the edge, the keener that you want to be, it's very important that you pay attention to the pressure. If you have a chip in your axe or your hatchet, possibly your knife, maybe you're butchering and accidents happen, you got a chip, you're going to want to put more pressure on it to grind it down, okay? But you want to make sure you still have control of whatever stone or hone or tool that you're using, because if you're putting too much pressure and suddenly you slip, accidents can happen. So just be aware of that, okay? You don't need it to be like putting 10, 15 pounds of pressure, 2 or 3 pounds of pressure, maybe even that's too much, it's kind of hard to say. But you want to put a decent amount of pressure on it that you can work on the piece if you're getting out nicks. As things move on and you're either moving up to a finer grit of stone, or suddenly the nicks start disappearing and now you're trying to pay attention not so much to getting the nicks out but more to the bevel, then you want to put lighter and lighter and lighter pressure until finally at the very end you really want to hardly put any pressure at all. And when using a knife and doing that, it can be kind of tricky, because if you don't put enough pressure on it and you're just kind of moving it around, then that can actually damage your bevel if you don't have control of your knife. Straight razors makes it a lot easier because you're using the spine of the straight razor really as a guide. So doing the light pressure on a straight razor is really simple. But on a knife, because you're trying to maintain that consistent angle, if you're just putting a little bit of pressure, it can kind of rock back and forth. So you want to make sure you have a solid grip on your knife or your hatchet or axe, and you want to pay attention to it on and back. But pay attention to it and take your time. Don't rush through it. If you have something to get to and you're worried about time, then that's not the time to do it. It's when you're sitting on the couch watching TV, maybe you're at a campfire, that's the time to really do it, and you can focus on it and you can kind of enjoy it. It's almost mesmerizing and relaxing once you get into it. But again, you want to use hard pressure at first when you're starting from a raw edge or damaged edge. If you're just maintaining your knife, a medium to light pressure is perfectly fine. Your experience will tell you as you go along how much to use. But that's a general guideline, okay? Your finishing run on a hone or a stone should be very, very light, okay? All right, so we still have time. It hasn't been 25 minutes for that. Someone on the video also asked me about my lanyards. Now, generally speaking, on one lanyard, I always keep my compass. And this is the old school pocket compass that I already did a video on. And the other one is for my whistle, which I also did a video on whistles. So the link's up there. But they asked me, well, what made up the lanyard? Now, these are original Scout lanyards. And the things that they have in common is they both use 3-strand rope. This white one is one single piece of rope, 3-strand rope. This one uses 2 3-strand ropes. and they both use a Turk's head for the slide or for the divider. This one is loose on a Turk's head. The Turk's head below here has actually been sewn onto the rope. I can actually see stitching on the inside just to keep it in place. So this one doesn't slide. This one does, which is really nice for adjusting. This one uses a Turk's head, but the way it did it is it actually split the 3 strands of rope and kind of worked it in as a Turk's head. Same thing for here. So the one single strand of rope, and they turned it into a Turk's head. But those are really useful pieces of equipment, especially when you're going through the woods. Instead of, you know, trying to fiddle with your pockets, you can literally just pull it out. The whistle is really nice for emergency purposes. That way I'm not, again, fiddling around with my pocket. If I get hurt or something, I can just pull it out and whistle single-handedly. Same thing with a compass. You know, it's really important to be able to get to your compass quickly when you're on a long trek. All right, let me see if I can remember anything else that I was supposed to talk about while we're waiting for these chestnuts to roast. We talked about the lanyards, we talked about the stone. I think that's it. So we're going to take a quick break. I'll bring you guys back to show you the chestnuts when they're done. So stay with me. I truly love this time of the year. Temperature's perfect for being outside. Once it starts getting kind of cool, the bugs start going away and not being so bothersome. And before the leaves start dropping, it gets kind of depressing. I don't really care for winter. But the fall, the early fall, oh man, I don't think you can beat it. Seems like things kind of come alive before the big sleet. The one was done, I think. Just trying to get it to go on the other side. It did split. Okay. I want to put this lid back on. I don't know if the other one's going to pop open. If you really want a surefire way of these things opening up, then like I said, having a little bit of water on them to get the steam, and having a closed container versus putting them on the skillet, it really gets it going. It makes it a lot more applicable. But as you can kind of see from that, a little bit closer, as you can see, it's opened up. And that's why you do the X. So that has a way of popping open. A little warm. I'm going to use the top of my, actually, it's on my plate. On my plate. I'm just going to use my knife. Just like that. It is soft. It is soft. And the nut, right there. You see the color of it. White center. Now again, if you have a little bit of salt, it makes this thing that much more enjoyable. And if you pinch the shell, because it's soft, they just pop right out like that. They have that yellow color. And you know, even if you don't care for the taste, if you're out in the woods and you're hungry, yeah, that's protein right there. So this is how you eat them. You don't want to eat them unless they're roasted, because they're not good for you. Eating them like so, perfectly fine. Now the best way for me to explain how they taste, they're kind of like a giant lima bean. They taste better than a lima bean, but lima beans and these things have a lot in common. A lot of people put them in stews to kind of thicken up stews. Put them on your salad. But it's pretty good. It's not great, but it's also not terrible. They're pretty good. Salt, help it out. Ooh, maybe some honey. I bet you salt and honey would go really well with this. There it is. That's how you do it. Basic things that you need. Just something to cover it up. Keep that heat in. Put a little bit of water on the nuts before you do that. It takes about a half hour to do it. And you got yourself roasted chestnuts. I hope you liked that video. I hope you found it useful. I know we didn't really examine an artifact today, at least as the main course, but nonetheless, I hope, you know, just that skill, you know, learning something about the tree and how to process it was useful to you, and you can build upon it. Something for your toolbox. If you like the video, please click like. Please consider subscribing. You know, this channel, we take a look at primary sources and we experiment with them, we use them, we talk about its history. And if that's your kind of thing, then this is a channel for you. Please share it with others who may like artifacts, who may like history, who may like interesting things like this. Check out my other videos. I've got a ton of campcraft videos. I've got some Civil War videos. I'm actually going to start doing more Civil War videos because it's getting cooler. I kind of avoided it during the summer because of being in the uniform and how hot it is. But I'm planning on doing a few more Civil War videos over the winter. And we have a good time. So please click subscribe. Please don't forget the bell notification. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Give a kiss and hug to your loved ones. And I'll catch you next time. Take care.